Okay, it is now 5 o'clock, and I see we have plenty of folks who have joined us tonight, so I'm happy to get things started. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our 48th Arvin and Lamont CSC meeting. Before we begin our meeting, we're going to take a few moments to set up interpretation, and we will then go through our logistics and housekeeping slides. For interpretation, I'm happy to pass it to Tanya from Lingüística. Welcome, Tanya.
Thank you, Mari. Buenas tardes a todos, bienvenidos a su reunión. Queremos recordarles que como siempre tenemos la interpretación simultánea al español disponible para ustedes si la necesitan. Si ingresaron con una computadora van a ver el icono de un mundo en la parte de abajo de su menú de Zoom. Por favor seleccionen ese icono y seleccionen el canal de español. También pueden silenciar el audio original para que nada más escuchen la voz del intérprete. Si ustedes ingresaron con un teléfono móvil o con una tableta, sus opciones se van a ver un poco diferentes. Necesitan tocar su pantalla y buscar el menú de los tres puntitos que dice más o more. Van a seleccionar interpretación de idioma. Seleccionen español. Nuevamente, silenciar el audio original y por último el botón que dice Done, listo o finalizar. Si necesitan ayuda en poder accesar el canal, por favor nos dejan saber en el chat. Y ahora vamos a dar esas mismas instrucciones en inglés. Hello everyone, welcome to your meeting. This is just a reminder that as usual, we have Spanish interpretation available for this meeting. So if you're a monolingual English speaker, we ask you to please select the English channel. That way you can have that direct communication from Spanish into English simultaneously. If you're joining with a computer, you'll see a globe at the bottom of your screen. Please select the globe and select English. And if you're joining with a cell phone or a tablet, your options will look a bit different. You need to tap your screen and find the menu with the three dots with the word more. Select language interpretation, select English, and then select done. The option can be either on top or at the bottom if you cannot find it. And if you need any help, you can let us know in the chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tanya. This is Maddie. And we'll take just a moment here just to make sure everybody is in their preferred channel. And we'd like to take this moment too to remind folks to speak slowly and to state your name prior to speaking. And this is just so folks in the Spanish channel can follow along who is speaking when speakers change throughout the meeting. Okay. Well, welcome everybody. So as you all know, and as your facilitators, part of our role in these meetings is to work behind the scenes to take attendance, offer technical assistance, and general support to ensure everyone is able to fully engage in tonight's meeting. If at any point you're having trouble with Zoom, interpretation, or if you have any questions about anything else, please feel free to message me or Liz, and we'll be happy to help. So the next slide that we have here for everybody is information regarding the naming conventions. So as a reminder, we use these naming conventions because they help with attendance tracking and with the stipend distribution process. So for CSC members, we ask that you put the letters CSC on your Zoom name. And for residents who are part of the stipend program, please also add the letter R. If you're not able to change it, you might notice your name change at some point throughout the meeting. That's just for us to help track who is here and who receives stipends. For others who are attending tonight's meeting, starting with the agency partners, we also ask that you put your agency name in your Zoom name. And for members of the public who are joining tonight's meeting, we ask that you indicate that in your Zoom name by putting the letter P, as this also helps us track who is or who to call on during our public comment period. Next, we have our slide on virtual meeting etiquette, where we ask folks to stay muted unless you're speaking. And if you're calling on the phone, you can press *6 to mute and unmute. If you have a question or a comment, we also ask that you raise your hand. And if you're joining on phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. We also have a reminder for residents in the stipend program. To qualify for the stipend program, please stay online today's meeting for at least 90 minutes. Next, we have a quick review of the group agreements. I know we've shown these in the past, but just bringing this forward for folks to review. We won't go through each one, but we do ask that everybody take a moment to review these on the screen and keep these in mind as we're going through tonight's meeting. And next we have tonight's agenda, where we'll have space for welcomes and introductions, followed by our action item tracker review. There will be a presentation on an update of the vegetative barrier CERT measure, standing updates, wrap up, and we'll close with public comment. So with all of that said, I'd like to officially welcome everyone to the 48th Arvin and Lamont CSC meeting. My name is Maddie, and I'm joined by my fellow co-facilitator, Liz. Again, if you're having any trouble throughout tonight's meeting, feel free to let Liz or myself know in the chat, and we're happy to help. At this time, I'd like to welcome in our co-leads, Bianca and Cesar, for some opening remarks. Bianca or Cesar, go for it.
Hi, I wanted to thank the Air District in giving us an amazing update on the green vegetative barrier. I know it's been a long process that we've tried to bring it back to the community. I saw the plan. I saw the plan beforehand, so I'm excited for the community to see some action in the area and for you guys to see it. So welcome and thank you.
Thank you so much, Bianca, for your opening remarks. Also wanted to make space for Cesar for any opening remarks you'd like to share. Okay. We can come back to that too as folks start joining as well. And with that, I'd also like to welcome in Jessica from the Air District for opening remarks.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Jessica Olson. I'm the Director of Community Strategies and Resources. I saw many of you on Monday in Shafter, so it's good to see you here again. And I just, as always, want to thank, we have some special presenters today that we'll introduce a little bit later, but also thank Bianca and Cesar for helping us prepare for this meeting. As always, they were keeping all of you in mind when they were providing direction to the district on how we thought tonight's presentation should go. And we're really looking forward to today really being about discussing options and hearing a really great update about one of your top priorities, which is vegetative barriers. So really looking forward to it. And thanks, Maddie.
Thanks, Jessica, for those opening remarks as well. Well, great. At this time, I'm happy to move us along to the next agenda item, which is the action item review. As we know, to help facilitate transparency and accountability, our team in the Air District are continuously updating the action item tracker to ensure that your requests are documented and that you stay informed on the progress towards implementing your suggestions. As Nancy provides updates, please feel free to ask for clarification, and anything that can't be answered tonight will be noted and brought back at a future meeting. So with that said, I'm happy to welcome in Nancy.
This is Nancy. Thank you, Maddie. And I did go ahead and drop down the link just in case anybody wants to follow along. Go ahead and share my screen now. All right, and can everybody see this? Thank you. All right, so these are going to be the action items from the last meeting, just a routine check-in on all the progress that we have made. And so we are going to begin here in the in progress section. And so these action items are from February. And so the first action item is the Air District will invite inspector to join an upcoming CSC meeting to share more about the procedures for conducting inspections in the community. And so this is a great agenda topic, and we will be having our Arvin Lamont agenda setting meeting on April 3rd, and this would be a great topic to discuss if the CSC is interested in bringing this topic to the next meeting. The next action item is regarding air monitoring updates. And so at the next, for the next air monitoring update, we will be doing a deeper dive into the spatiation results of the PM 2.5 air monitoring. And so there was a lot of great conversation, a lot of feedback, engagement during the previous air monitoring update. And so I know that many of you would like to learn more and dive down into this information, which is great. So we will be incorporating this feedback into an upcoming quarterly air monitoring update. Moving along, the next action item, the Air District will work with the CSC to conduct outreach before the next lawnmower exchange event in the community. And so currently, the logistics are being worked out between us, the district, and Valley Cleaner now. And so the next lawnmower exchange event is supposed to be taking place in the fall of 2025. And so as soon as we have a date, we will be letting you all know about this. And of course, if anybody would like flyers, once they are available, I will be more than happy to send these out to you. And I can go ahead and drop down my contact information after the action items. All right, and then so the last action item is under the completed section, and this is regarding the Air District will let the CSC know whether agricultural burning permits are shared online. And so this question was asked in a chat, and it was answered as well. So district staff provided a response during the February CSC meeting that agricultural burning permits are not shared online. And so that concludes the action items from the last meeting. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to let us know.
Thank you so much for the review, Nancy. I do see that we have a question from Mario and Elvia. Go for it.
Yeah, my question is on the fires of for the fields. I thought there was cutting and doing the mulch on the wood, what they was cutting or pulling out the trees or whatever. And it was not answered because we haven't stopped the fires. You know, I think we had to completely stop the fires like that. We won't have this type of contamination in our air, because they will not help the community if they are still burning. You want the community to stop burning, but you're letting other people get permission to burn. And I don't feel that if that is reasonable to try to figure out a way to stop even burning. Period, you know, because that's the only way we'll clean up our air.
Thanks, Mario. This is Jessica. I can quickly address it, but I wonder if related to the request for having an inspector at an upcoming meeting, because inspectors and our enforcement division is very strongly tied to our agricultural burning phase out, in which I'll just answer right now to your point, Mario. Almost every single instance of what used to be allowed to burn is no longer allowed to be burned. But there might be some instances, maybe in like emergency type settings, but otherwise, if there's agricultural burning happening, it's very possible it's not supposed to be. And so I wonder, so that there's someone who's much more versed on that than the folks that are on this call today from the district, if we can write down, Harder and Company folks, that in addition to having an inspector, one of our topics with the inspector would be agricultural burning. And we can talk a lot about the amount that's been reduced, because Mario's right in that there shouldn't be a lot of burning happening out there, very little, if any at all, based on the new law that's in place that finally by January of this year meant that any burning happening in the valley shouldn't happen. So thanks for that idea, Mario.
Yeah, and not only that, I feel that, you know, it would be, all right if it would burn a little bit, but it's not burning a little bit. I'm talking about a whole field. And I don't feel, and not only that, it's not, smoke, it's really dark smoke. That's something else burning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. If it feels certainly if it feels like it's something else. I mean, regardless, please, and this is always our ever constant refrain, please call in the district as soon as possible. And that's maybe another thing that we'll hit on. I know it was touched on during the outreach subcommittee meeting, but certainly at our next meeting where we have an inspector, we'll continue to talk about how as soon as the district is notified of that, we'll make sure that folks not only, have to put it out, but get cited for it if it's
Yeah.
illegal.
And not only that, the point I'm trying to get at is they don't need to clean up the area, because the last time it was a burnout there, they had trash, they had tires, they
Oh,
had
yeah.
plastic jugs and all kind of stuff. I mean, they don't need to clean the area. I mean, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And
This is all great.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to get my point there because, I think the one to investigate that area, I think he should follow up and make sure it's cleaned up.
Thank you, Mario. Yeah, I think this sounds like it's just a perfect topic for a soon future, maybe our next meeting. I do know we also asked CARB to be a big part of our next meeting. So maybe within the next 2 meetings, we can address a couple of recent topics. Thank you, Mario. And I'm just going to announce out loud, it is always and has always been illegal to burn trash. So definitely if you see something, report it. Awesome. Thank you, Maddie.
Yeah, thank you, Mario, for elevating that. And thank you, Jess, for sharing. So it sounds like an action item will be bringing along an ag burning discussion along with the inspector discussion as well in future meetings. So appreciate that as well. I do see we have a question in the chat from Jesus. Jesus asked, would it be possible to receive updates on planned permitted burnings in or near our area?
I don't know that there should be planned permitted burnings continuing to happen in your area. So what I'll just say, Jesus, is I will take this question as we prepare that presentation and see kind of what that process is like. Again, now that it's not there shouldn't be a bunch of burning happening. And I'll make sure that that question gets answered. I'm sorry, I don't have that answer right now.
Thank you both. And so another thing that we can anticipate and bringing forth in our next discussion. So thank you for raising that as well, Jesus. Any other questions from folks about the action items or any need for clarification? Well, I'm not seeing any hands raised or any mics unmuted, nor any other questions coming through the chat. So I think we're in a spot to continue on with the meeting. Thank you everyone for your questions so far. So with that said, I'm happy to welcome in my colleague Liz, who will be facilitating the next agenda item on vegetative barriers.
Thank you, Maddie. This is Liz. Welcome, everybody. And yes, I'm happy to transition us to our main agenda item for this evening, the update on the SERP's Vegetative Barriers program. As you all likely remember, there has been so much work that has gone into bringing this project to the point it's at now. You all, as a part of the CSC, have engaged a couple times in some mapping exercises to come up with those priority locations for vegetative barriers. And today you'll hear both from the Air District and from HIFE representatives who could be the potential implementers of this project. You'll hear both a recap on where we've been and how we got here, just as a refresher before we invite these potential partners to share more details on what the potential project could look like. And before we jump into the presentations, we just wanted to make it clear to everybody that tonight really is an opportunity for everyone to ask questions and think through this proposal together. No decisions will be made tonight. Really, this is a time for you to really make sure you understand what is proposed, knowing that there is still some wiggle room, and the HIFI folks who are here really are interested in hearing directly from the community, as they will let you know. So with all of that said, I am happy to first pass it to the Air District team, and they will get us started. And I believe Angela and Michelle are here.
Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you so much, Liz. So as Liz mentioned, I am from the Air District and Michelle is one of my colleagues. We are working on the presentation that Nancy is going to share for us. And thank you so much, Nancy. So as I mentioned, my name's Angela Zapian and I am an air quality specialist. We'll go over the proposal overview that we received. Next slide, please, Nancy. So some background information. Vegetative barriers, the RFP reopened in November 4th of 2024. And there is a total grant amount of up to $500,000. There is a proposal submission deadline that we had in place of January 9th, 2025. And we did receive a proposal from HIFI. And we do have representation today that will be speaking in just a little bit. Next slide, please. Some project information. So the purpose of this project is purchasing, installing trees, which are going to serve as a vegetated barrier, which will address critical environmental challenges in the region. Partners that HIFI has are AB 617 Community Steering Committee, which is known as the CSC, and City of Arvin, to name a few. Number of trees, they have proposed between 81 to 90. The implementation is projected to be 1 year after awarded, if awarded, and the budget, they're looking at $498,068. Next slide, please, Nancy. So a proposed location, there is a section of Tejon Highway, which is near Velasco Street and Sycamore Road in Arvin. This is near an agricultural field. This is a location that was prioritized by CSC. Next slide, please, Nancy. Another proposed location, a section of Tejon Highway, also near Velasco Street and El Camino Real in Arvin. And this is located near an orchard. This is also a location that has been prioritized by CSC. Next slide, please, Nancy. So there are some other potential locations and partnerships. So a successful vegetated barriers projects are possible with partnerships with agencies to ensure plants are maintained long-term. To date, HIFI has secured partnership with City of Arvin. Additional sites for vegetated barriers can be considered. HIFI is working to identify additional partnerships such as Caltrans. Next slide, please, Nancy. And the next steps. So what this is going to look like, the district with CSC, we're going to review and provide feedback on the proposal, and then eventually move forward to offer a contract to the selected applicant. and then move forward with implementation, reimbursement, and project maintenance. And next slide, please, Nancy. So are there any comments or questions for me? Keep in mind, Hyphy will be presenting in a little bit, and they will also be available for comments and questions.
Angela, this is Jess. I wonder if just because there's so much great information that are like the details of the project, I wonder if we pause and let Hyphy present and then take all questions. And I know Angela and Michelle will even pull up our slides if we need to, if that is okay with folks.
Yeah, absolutely. If everyone's okay with that, I'm definitely okay with Hyphy moving forward. Thank you, Jessica.
This is Liz. I think that sounds good too, but Mario, I see your hand up, so just wanted to see if you feel like you could save that question or if you had a clarifying question that you wanted to ask right now.
Yeah, I just want something, it's something simple. The only thing I want to ask is, if the person that have, you know, responsible for all putting water, making sure it's clean, cut the tree and all that, is it a long term or is it a short term? And not only that, if we could see maybe the paperwork to make sure that they are doing the job, because I'll be honest with you, our main street in Lamont, it looks really bad. I don't know why they're not taking care of the place. It's all dried up, and I will hate, putting this thing in, and they're not taking care of it. And who we have complained with and all that, we have to make sure they do the job right.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mario, for that question. So as of right now, nobody has been awarded this grant. So therefore, nobody has been contracted as of yet. What we can say is that there is a 3-year implementation and a 10-year total maintenance. So that is the project consideration that we want to make sure, just as you mentioned, we want to make sure that this is attended to. We're not going to just plant and then leave. But yeah, definitely great information and something to consider when we are, or when Hyphy's moving forward to consider who they're going to be contracting.
Yeah, because a lot of time they do the work, a couple of years, and they drop it, and then who will pick up after that? And not only that, the community be paying more money to take care of the spot is kind of, hard.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
Yeah, and I see, this is Liz. Francisco, I see your hand came up too. I think, and also Mario's question, I think could be answered a bit more from the folks at Hyphy here. And so maybe if it's okay with you, Francisco, we can have them continue on with their presentation and we'll have plenty of time at the end to make sure that your question is answered, but it's possible it might be answered in their
Oh,
presentation.
está muy bien, gracias.
Thank you. Gracias.
Great. Would you guys like me to start, or I see another hand from Francisco. You.
This is Liz. You all can go ahead, I think, and start your presentation and we'll come back to his question. Thank
Great.
you.
Great. I think that was a wonderful question. I will get to that at the end, as maintenance is kind of, in my mind, the most important thing. Stewardship of our ecosystems is what makes them actually thrive and survive. And we've been working with a lot of different communities across the state to try to identify, better long-term maintenance and stewardship models. So I look forward to talking about that. I also just sent you my cell phone, Mario, so you can call me when you when you're want feedback. But let me dive in and give you guys a little presentation here. So I hope you guys can see it. I'm gonna enter full screen and move. Can you guys see my screen all right there?
Yes.
Great. So I wanted to just dig in and give you a little bit of history about ourselves, in addition to our process to try to collaborate on these vegetative barriers projects with you. And so first I'm going to give an overview of the agenda. I'm assuming that this is being translated into Spanish as well simultaneously. I just wanted to confirm. Many of our slides are in Spanish. I believe most of them. But yeah, I think it's important first for me to give you a little bit of history about our organization and myself and our environmental justice history, because I feel like all of the work in the environmental justice movement moves at the speed of trust. So I wouldn't want to come in here and just tell you about vegetative buffers. It's important for me to tell you about myself and my experience. I'm also going to apologize early. I'm getting over a cold, so I have a little bit of a hoarse voice that will probably get worse over the course of the presentation. But I'm then going to tell you a little bit about our process, which is a community-led and community-driven process and an evidence-based design process. Then I'm going to explain a little bit about our experience over the last 10 to 15 years developing vegetative barriers. I'm going to start to talk about some of the potential sites in Arvin and Lamont that we've considered. And then I'm going to leave significant room for questions, hoping to get through the slideshow in maybe 10 or 15 minutes and have significant additional time. So a little bit of background for ourselves is I started Hyphy Design Laboratory, which is a mission-driven organization 15 years ago in West Oakland. We're an interdisciplinary design team of ecologists, designers, engineers, and we're specializing in urban greening to enhance environmental justice and human health. Our organization is called Hyphy. Hyphae are like mycelium fungus that grow in the soil, and they help plants thrive and be healthy. We utilize hyphae as a metaphor in that we as an organization work with communities to help them thrive and be healthy. We started our organization 15 years ago in West Oakland in a community that is highly impacted by port emissions, a waste treatment plant, significant trucking and warehousing impacts. And we've been working since the foundation of our organization with environmental justice groups and agencies in collaboration to develop strategies and solutions to our collective problems. And unlike many researchers, we are very solution oriented. We focus on interventions and innovation in interventions to actually make change in the community. In addition to our own community, we are actually now working with over 7 different AB 617 communities. So we work in East Oakland, in West Oakland, in Richmond. We were recently awarded in partnership with good collaborators of ours called Little Manila Rising in Stockton. We were recently awarded the vegetative buffer grant there, also from Valley Air. So we have a good understanding of a lot of the guidelines and constraints and the process, and have had a good collaborative relationship working with Valley Air. We also work in Boyle Heights and in South Los Angeles with communities there. In Richmond, another one that I didn't mention, in Richmond, we also worked with a group called Groundwork Richmond to secure over $1 million there and to plant a large vegetative buffer between the port and a major freeway and a community. We've also worked on designing and developing vegetative buffers across the country. This is a vegetative buffer we designed and installed in Louisville, Kentucky, between a freeway and a community. And in this project, we're actually doing extensive research on cardiovascular health of the residents in the neighborhood and studying whether the greening can actually significantly improve air quality and therefore cardiovascular health. Our process is community driven. We work with community groups to basically empower them with decision-making and put that in their hands. We find it is our job to bring the science to the community and bring the best options to the community, and then give you the opportunity to decide the best locations and technologies to implement. And we've done this with communities all over the country, not only with vegetative buffers, but other techniques. We also take an evidence-based design approach, which means that we leverage data. We use things like wind direction, pollution volumes, road proximity, and other modeling and simulation tools to optimize the design of vegetative buffers. We then show and share that data with the community. We then work with agencies and contractors to implement that work and other local nonprofits. We then go and monitor the effect of those buffers. The way that we feel is if we just build something that looks nice, it's not actually helping solve your air quality issues, whether that's coming from truck pollution or pesticide drift from farms that surround your community. So for us, it's really designing these solutions so that we can actually show the change over time. This is an example of very good friends of ours in Boyle Heights that we work with. As I said, we start with a community-led process. Here we work with a group called Proyecto Pastoral. It's part of a group called Promesa in Boyle Heights. And we've been working with them for 3 or 4 years to identify truck routes. I go out and drive with the community members, and we empower them to come up with their own design decisions. And here we've both looked at truck rerouting through the community as well as greening opportunities. As I said, our process is also evidence-based. So what we do is we have a rigorous process where we analyze the data. Where's the pollution coming from? We then look at design options. We understand different greening strategies may have better or worse impacts. We then use simulations to model those interventions to study how effective we think they might be. We therefore may look at 1 or 2 sites, and after modeling them, say, this site actually might be more effective than the other one. We then work with nonprofits and community groups and agencies to install the projects, and we finally monitor the results. So vegetated buffers, as you guys know, you're now all probably experts, as I am, are not just random plantings of trees, but they're actually very organized plantings of trees that are placed upwind of sensitive receptors and downwind of pollution sources in an attempt to essentially either displace the pollution over people or actually collect some of that pollution on the vegetation. The other thing that we've found in designing these vegetative buffers is the closer that we can get the vegetation to the pollution source, whether it's trucking or farming activities, the more pollution we can remove. We often jokingly say it's kind of like a sprinkler. If you're very close to a sprinkler in your yard, you're probably going to get more wet than if you're very far away from that sprinkler. And in the same sense, if we put the vegetation very close to the pollution, we're going to collect more of the particulate matter than if it's very far away. Also, vegetative buffers are effective when they're extremely dense and they're contiguous. They're less effective when they have large gaps in them, either between the trees or underneath of the trees. So that's kind of a little bit of a background. I'm happy to show you many more projects if you guys want to. I then just wanted to dig into a little bit about our proposal for the Arvin Lamont community. So the first thing that we did was, I guess, just to step back one step. We found out about this project because we were collaborating with a bunch of folks in Huron. We work with Mayor Ray Leon, if you guys know him, a little further north in the Central Valley. We're also working with Stockton and Fresno. And in December, while we were submitting another proposal to CARB, we heard about the Arvin Lamont RFP, and we were like, amazing. And so folks from the Center for Race, Poverty, and Environment said, you guys should go ahead and submit. And so we sort of were hurrying in December to get a submittal in. And that tends to be, as you saw, our philosophy, not our typical approach. We normally work for months or years with the community to actually select the sites. And so we were thankful that you as the community had already done a bunch of work to identify priority sites. What we did is we tried then to reach out to the cities, the elementary schools and the parks, both in Lamont as well as in Arvin. In that short time, we were not able to actually get any feedback from the folks in Lamont, but we did identify some really interesting opportunity sites, and it's something that we would love to consider and work with you guys and the community. We did get a very enthusiastic response from Christine, who's the grants manager at the city of Arvin. And I believe Stephanie or someone from the Air District connected us with her, which was amazing. So we're extremely thankful to Christine, who's done a lot of work to get funding to the city of Arvin. And so we had some early discussions with her and basically said, if we're able to get approval for the proposal, then we would work in more depth with the city to actually identify a specific location. But due to the speed of it, we also had to submit some proposal to essentially quantify how much it would plant and start to work with some of the landscape contractors and others to really understand how much we could plant. So to give you some context, we actually just zeroed in on one location that had been identified and on Tejon Highway by the community. And one of the big constraints that we had was there's often very little like right of way, which is the land that's not part of people's private property. So the edges of the roadways. And so we identified a number of places that were actually in the city of Arvin's jurisdiction, like this area that's identified as yellow. We did identify a bunch of other possible interesting planting areas. For example, in this case, the red area across the street. And here's a vision of that from a street view image. That unfortunately is the County of Kern owned land. And so for us, this is a good example where for right now, we provided a budget to do planting in the yellow or on the left-hand side here, or the western side of Tejon. But as we get into the project, it would be really interesting to work with the community and work with the city and others to see if there's other opportunities for planting. We also similarly looked at some places on Comanche Drive, and similarly on the western side, a lot of that is Kern County controlled and not city. So this is where, we've submitted a proposal, but we really want to work with the city of Arvin and yourselves to identify other sites. We were also interested in the possibility of doing something at Bear Mountain Elementary, but we're not able to get in touch with them, but that area had been identified too by the community. So this is where, even though we've submitted a proposal, we really want to work to optimize it. And for reference, this is very similar to what happened in Stockton. As Stephanie and others know from the Air District, we were selected by the steering committee for vegetated buffers on their AB 617 steering committee. And then we worked for almost 6 months to actually finalize the proposal and choose and identify final sites, and come to a number of steering committee meetings and get people's feedback, and then finally do that planting. So similarly, we're not able to get approval in Lamont, but we already started to look at some possible sites. We thought it, for example, would be really interesting to potentially plant in front of the Lamont Elementary School along Main Street, which is one of the heavier trafficked sites. Oops, sorry. And so, here's a view from the street view of that. And one of the interesting things that could happen in some of these projects too is that we could essentially do some testing and then potentially do additional planting later. This is something we're doing in Stockton as well, where we're planting a buffer, for example, in one chunk of the landscape, and then we're leaving another chunk blank to compare its effects, and then later coming in and planting that. So looking at how we use these as sort of like research projects. But these were other sites that we were excited about, but we're not able to, before the submission, actually get approval from the school. And that's where we would love to work with you all on the steering committee and your relationships in your own community to really start to identify the best locations. So that's, as I've said here, we had to choose a location in order to complete the application. If selected, we would go through this more collaborative process, evidence-based process, and really work with you all to try to identify the best location. We also identified a number of small local minority-owned businesses in the Bakersfield and Central Valley area to give us pricing for some of that planting. I can send people a list of those names, but we'd be open to finding other contractors or smaller community groups who could do some of the planting with us, based in the community. This is just a quick overview of the budget. This has all been submitted, so if you guys want to see it later, you're welcome to. Someone was bringing up, Mario, I think, was saying how important maintenance is. And for us, this is a giant issue. We're actually working with the San Joaquin Community Foundation to actually look at how we start to build endowments for the long term, how to manage these types of things. In this context, we weren't officially able to start an endowment, but we did put 30% of the budget towards maintenance because we find it to be so important. And a lot of times people, like you said, Mario, just like put the trees in and then never come back. So I think that was a big piece for us. That is also another reason why we are trying to sort of advance the planting as quick as we possibly could to, first just in the first months of 25 and into the end, really like work with the community and the agencies to design and finalize locations with the hope of essentially the beginning of 2026, essentially planting out the buffers and then giving ourselves like 12 to 18 months of good establishment maintenance during the contract period so that we know, as you guys know, that's like often when the plants are most at risk, knowing that that's during the contract period, but then we would also be taking on responsibility after those 3 years as well. So that's a quick overview. And welcome all questions.
This is Liz. Thank you so much, Brent, and to all your team for putting this presentation together and being here at this meeting to share all of this really important information with the community. We do have a big group, and I think folks are probably going to have a lot of questions, so we can go ahead and start fielding some of those. And Mario, I see your hand is up, but we did have Francisco in line earlier. I know you had a question.
That's good. Get Francisco and I'll take the second one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, go ahead, Francisco. And Brent, if you have not selected your interpretation channel,
sí.
you'll have to select English.
Okay.
Yo lo seleccioné, estoy en español. Lo que quería yo hacer una pregunta es por qué razón no incluyeron las barreras aquí en la calle Comanche y la Bar City hasta el 7-Eleven, porque aquí están nuestras casas y atrás de nuestras casas tenemos las almendras. Son files de almendras y cuando fumigan, toda la fumigación viene a caer en nuestras casas. Y luego cuando las sacuden para levantarlas, todo el terregal, haz de cuenta que está como noblina, que no se puede ni ver por la calle Comanche de todo el terregal que se nos viene a nuestras casas. So yo quería tener esa pregunta, a ver cuál es la razón que no incluyeron aquí. Y es todo.
Thank you. Thank you, Francisco. This is Liz. I'm not sure, Brent, if you were able to turn on the translation.
I don't know how to turn on translation. Thankfully, my Spanish is like decent enough that I got most of what Francisco can say, so I can try to answer some of that, but I don't have translation on. If someone could tell me how to do that for the future.
There is on the bottom, do you see there's like a little globe icon that says interpretation? It's next to the share button on my screen.
I don't have that one.
There might be a more with three
Oh,
options.
there we go. More.
Perfect. If you select English.
Great.
Awesome. You may be able to, I'll say from the air district perspective, if you had more to add, that's great, Brent, I'll just remind everyone, at least as of right now, and what you saw in the air district presentation, we had a budget that you all put together when we developed the CERP. And so when we went out with the request for proposals, folks who applied, in this case, just Hyphy, when they searched, and as Brent really, I think, described really well in how they at least picked, like one or a couple of projects they could do. They, from my understanding, of course, with the amount of money and clearly the amount of like effort and trees and labor that it will take to do this work, we cannot plant trees in every single place that everyone identified on that map. So really what we're doing today, at least, is hearing the initial proposal. But what I heard really clearly from Hyphy is that through this, as it makes sense and with some of maybe even the scientific backing, at least right now with that budget, if we've identified places that are maybe more important collectively as a group, we can move it. However, I think we've said it a couple times, but I want to make sure we set out in all of our mapping exercises places where folks were interested in planting trees. But as of right now, and certainly I think into the future, given that there were a lot of high priority areas, we definitely don't have the capacity to plant barriers in every single one of those. So I hope that answers your question, Francisco, but I think maybe what you're describing is one of the, a piece of input that Hyphy can use.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ok, muchas gracias. Está bien por la explicación.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is that, I see you guys as the folks living in the community as the technical experts that I need to work with. And the challenge I had in putting the proposal together is I didn't have you as the technical experts to really look at and optimize the highest priority locations. So I would love to do that. Normally our work also is driven by doing a lot of wind studies and looking at sort of the most high impact pollution sources. As you guys know, for example, certain agricultural crops tend to utilize more pesticides than others, and there's a lot of nuance we could get in to really optimize the location. There's also certain conditions that make the vegetated buffers more effective. So for example, if we can make them 15 or 20 feet wide, or like 4 or 5 meters wide, then they can be a lot more effective, right? So we're really interested in working with you to optimize the location over a series of meetings, whoever's interested.
Thank you, Brent, and thank you for the question, the really important question, Francisco. We have a couple other hands up, so we can go to Mario next and then Bianca.
Yeah, my question is, when you guys do main streets, do you check out the safety for the traffic and when they're turning and stuff like that? Because if they don't take care of the plant, then it'll get really big and people will start wrecking more because they can't see the other side. Did you guys plan out anything on that part? I can't hear you.
Yeah, so there's a lot of design constraints that we have to work around. So for example, when you're near an intersection, you have to use lower vegetation so that people can see pedestrians or cars turning. So what we tend to do at those locations is choose vegetation that's not going to actually grow above 3 feet or 4 feet, which is sort of the view height, so that it won't require long-term maintenance. We also have to do a lot of work in relation to looking at where utility lines are, both above ground and below ground. So we can also choose species in many cases that are often better for vegetated buffers that are narrow and columnar type species. And we're often normally choosing evergreen species. So one of the nice things with evergreen species, if you know about plant growth, is that you can actually often like top them, and a lot of them won't grow any taller once they reach a certain height. So there's a lot that we do in both coordinating with the agencies and the utilities, but also in choosing the right plants.
Yeah, but like saying in 2 years, do you guys come back and try out the street like that to make sure that or and just run them and go.
I don't, sorry, Mario, to interrupt. Was I the only one? I feel like Mario, you were cutting out there a little bit.
It
Yeah,
did
my
cut.
point, my point is like, you know, do they come back to see the job they do, like maybe 1 or 2 years to see if there's any safety issues of when they turn on the other side of Main Street or wherever they plant the, you know, trees or whatever plant?
Yeah. So first of all, we don't plant close to the intersection so that there aren't view shed issues. But then, yeah, the first 18 months have very intensive maintenance, right? With watering, really to get them established. Normally the first like 1 to 3 years is really the most important for maintenance, but we're also writing into the maintenance budget coming out quarterly for the remaining 10 years. So, you know, that would include doing more pruning and maintenance, you know, seasonally over the whole duration of the project.
Yeah, because I've seen some places where I went and there's spots that you can't see the other side, or, you know, if the car is there. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. And that's one of the important things in citing these vegetated buffers, because in order for them to be effective to mitigate dust and air pollution, they do need to be very dense, right? And so that's where we like to work on planting them in locations where they're not going to be like a pedestrian or bike or car problem over time, because we are trying to, you know, as you all know, probably from many farm working communities. I grew up in a farming community, but there are hedgerows, right? You're often designing hedgerows next to farms in order to like be windbreaks. And so they function a lot, very similar to sort of a hedgerow or a windbreak that you would design for a farm.
Yeah, and one more question. Did you ever try out, find out if you could get the job right here in Lamont for the Main Street? Because Arvin, you know, the stuff that's there, it's all dried up. It's bad. It's really bad.
The soils are, you're saying?
The plants, really.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're planning in this project to choose a location where we actually install irrigation as well. And so we've also tried to work into the best we can, predicting like continuing to pay for irrigation over time as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, nice meeting you, and hopefully we'll team up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario. Really great questions. And Bianca, go ahead.
I wanted to be just clear on the amount or is it 1/4 of a mile or is it a couple feet that are going to be for the green vegetative barriers? Also, I did have a question prior to this presentation. I had seen it. Is it going to be placed in the Arvin area, which is closer to the homes, or on the fields? So there's 2 different questions that I do have. One, how far is the green vegetative barrier? Is it going to be very long? I know that you had mentioned 2 proposed areas in Comanche and Tejon, but after the proposal, you had mentioned that it's only one location where it's Tejon. So I wanted to see how long is it. The second question is it going to be planted near the field or on the side of the home area?
So to answer the question first is we have not decided a final location, right? So we've put a budget together and chosen a location in order to develop an appropriate scale, right? To say like, here's how far that budget could go in, you know, with the maintenance and planting requirements. I believe the distance that we have is about 300 feet long. And that's with the intention of planting what will immediately be a very dense buffer. So we're actually proposing to plant large trees that come in 24-inch or 36-inch boxes and will be like large established trees when they go in. One of our motivations in proposing that was that we've found that it's impactful for a community if they haven't built a buffer yet, to build one that's going to grow in much quicker and like show the effect. And then that way the community and potentially donors like the agencies we have here or other philanthropic donors can see the value of them in the long run, and we can like continue to raise money to plant more. We would be happy to work with you guys though to say, do you want to actually plant smaller trees and do a longer vegetated buffer that wouldn't be as effective as early, right? So those are trade-offs we need to make with the community. So for example, we've found that we find kind of a sweet spot in planting 24-inch box trees because we can plant them relatively densely, and within 3 to 5 years they'll be fully grown in. We've worked with some communities though where they say we actually would rather have more vegetated buffer over a longer distance, but that is not grown in as quickly. So it's really a decision that we'll need to make with you guys. And as far as like the east versus west side, at this point, if we do it on Tejon there, we have collaborated with the city of Arvin, so we can only as of now plant on land that Arvin has control of, and the other side is controlled by Kern County. So for us, we're looking at that because we see it as potentially impactful, right? Like if we could plant there, it might actually mitigate the farm dust more. But at this point, we're working in areas where we can plant on Arvin land. I hope that answers your question.
I have a follow-up. I'm sorry.
All right.
After checking, it's not very far. It's not even half a mile or a quarter of a mile. That is alarming. And to be using the whole entire funding, I don't know how other people feel about it. It it does give some concerning factors that it's being used $400,000 just for a small section for green vegetative barriers when we're able to maybe use it somewhere else or where you were proposing in other areas. So I don't know if others feel the same way. I would like to review the proposal again. Maybe even not being so constrained as the trees being so constrained, so we don't use that amount, that whole amount in one just small section, but take advantage of it and use it in different sections in the city or maybe in the Lamont area too. So that's how I feel. I don't know about others if they have any follow-up.
This is Liz. Thank you, Bianca, for sharing some of your concerns, and definitely do welcome others to raise your hand or put any responses in the chat for how you might be feeling about that as well. We do have a couple other hands up, so we can go to Jesus next.
Thank you. Yeah, I second what Bianca has just mentioned. Because I think when we first started this project, is we would do our best to split the funds between the Lamont, Arvin, Weepatch, Hilltop areas, if possible. So being able to plant in more areas would be definitely our goal. What comes to mind is and I think you might have clarified it already. If what we're doing right now is approving that location, or we're approving this process where the community will be given data in order to make a decision.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The goal would be that you would be approving to collaborate with us to work through our kind of community and evidence-based process. Also, like we pitched that location to just give an option and give ideas so that we could even get comment back. We're totally open to doing multiple locations, a different location. For us, working with you would have been what we'd like to do before doing that. But for example, the way that we had to respond to the RFP is that we needed to have a letter from a landowner in order to submit it. And so we weren't able to get that from anyone in Lamont. It wasn't that we weren't interested in doing planting there, but we would love to. And like I was saying earlier, as far as like planting more area with lower cost, those are definitely possible. Like I said, we can plant smaller trees in more locations and more spread out, but they won't be effective vegetated barriers for a longer period of time. It might be 10 or 15 years before it's effective. So if you're looking at it as a community for a long-term impact as opposed to a short-term impact or a demonstration project, that's definitely a possibility. And there's just trade-offs that you will have to make. And I think as I think it was Mario or someone brought up early, the other thing we need to weigh is like if we want to put a bunch of money towards maintenance and long-term care, that's really expensive, and it does cut into the amount of planting that you can do, and those are just realities, and we need to weigh those options. And the way we work is like in full transparency, so we're happy to share and have shared all of the budgets and the budgets from the tree nurseries and the budgets from the irrigation and landscape contractors. So it's all the costs that it unfortunately costs to do it. And I'm happy to show you all of this.
No, I absolutely appreciate that. And I think, that information and that breakdown will be extremely valuable when it comes to the decision making, for the community to make that decision.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get just clarifying. So then after we receive the data and the potential locations, the project would only move forward with consensus from the CSC.
Yeah, and I'll help clarify that. Thanks,
Okay,
Jesus.
thank you.
Great question. This is Jessica with the Air District. Yes, so today this is your first time seeing the proposal. This is your first time meeting Brent and hearing about HIFI. And as described, and I think Brent is doing such a great job demonstrating it, so much of their process involves this group. And so what I'm just going to say right now, so that as we keep asking Brent questions, which we still can right now, but I'll just say, I think this maybe is right for our original intention was actually to do a subcommittee, but we felt like it made sense to first bring it to the whole committee as a kickoff. But I wonder if we go to a subcommittee and maybe as we kind of give some feedback and kind of have some next steps with Brent and the team. And then to your point, Jesus, that is correct. We will not move forward unless there's consensus from the group that this is not only the partnership we want to move forward with, and then also potentially down the road or maybe at the same time, the projects we want to move forward with. So that is the process, Jesus. We are not, as an Air District, coming to you right now and saying, here's the proposal, yes or no. We're definitely just coming to introduce the project and talk a little bit more in depth. And it sounds like a lot of you have great questions that I hadn't even thought of for Brent. So I appreciate the interaction.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, really important questions. Thank you. And go ahead, Maria.
Bueno, yo tengo comentarios, ¿verdad? Lo que están diciendo de las barreras vegetativas, veo que la persona hizo como su estudio en una calle, ¿verdad? Entonces, a lo único es mi comentario. Nosotros cuando estuvimos escogiendo las prioridades o las calles, nos enfocamos más en la calle Comanche. ¿Por qué? Porque la calle Comanche eh, tiene toda la calle está de un lado todas las almendras, ¿ya? De este lado estamos nosotros, están las casas y está muy cerca la escuela, una escuela que está nada más al pasar la calle. Entonces, por eso nosotros nos habíamos enfocado más en la calle Comanche. Pero la otra cosa es, si, si no se pudiera, porque depende de muchas cosas, la luz, que a lo mejor las postes de luz están muy cerca, no se van a poder plantar los árboles, o sea, depende de muchas cosas, no nada más es de lo que nosotros quieramos, ¿verdad? Porque ahora sí que nuestra idea es por la contaminación, más que nada, por todo el polvo que se pasa de las almendras a las casas, que es un polvo contaminado, no es nada más decir, oh, es un polvito que se viene, no, es un polvo contaminado con pesticidas, ¿verdad? Pero si para poner esa barrera vegetativa, cuesta mucho dinero, no se va a poder o por el tableado que hay de los cables de luz y se va a escoger otra calle que sí es importante, pero no es tanto para la comunidad. Entonces, yo pienso que sí tendríamos que platicarlo mucho en la junta del subcomité de pesticidas y hablar mucho acerca de todo esto, porque hay muchas preguntas que tenemos que hacer y yo pienso que tendremos que seguir en la plática de todo este proceso de las barreras vegetativas para hacerlo en las reuniones del subcomité de pesticidas, porque sí, en verdad que sí hay muchas cosas que se tienen que aclarar tanto para la comunidad como para la persona que va a hacer el proyecto, porque el objetivo de esto es bajar la contaminación para que nos ayude a nosotros como comunidad que no estemos expuestos a ese polvo contaminado. No nada más porque queremos una barrera y que pongan árboles, o sea, el propósito es para no recibir ese polvo contaminado. Entonces sí tenemos que hablar mucho acerca de eso. Era mi comentario que yo quería hacer. Gracias.
I completely agree with everything you said. and would love to work with you on that. The way that we actually found out about this project is we were submitting a separate pesticide mitigation proposal to the California Air Resource Board. And we're actually working with a group of a farming community in Huron around that. We started reaching out to other communities that were also trying to address pesticides. And as part of that project, we're actually doing a mapping project to look at which different crops have the most impactful pesticides from a human health standpoint. So I completely agree with you. And I was constrained by the process, right? Like we had to submit a proposal that had plants and a number and a location. And I think what we should be thinking about in the future is like potentially having 2-phase vegetated buffer proposals. Sorry, this is maybe a proposal to the air district, but doing a first round where you're actually doing design and analysis and community collaboration to choose a location, and then after you've done that process, put out one to build it. But we were constrained by the fact that we had a map where you all told us you wanted to plant them and had to get a proposal in. And so, yeah, we would much rather that collaborative process. And our goal also is research driven and solutions driven. So we don't want to put a vegetated buffer in a random place that's not going to be effective. So we completely agree with you, and we're interested in pesticide and road dust and pollution mitigation, and want to find a location that has the biggest impact. And our motivation to do more of a dense pilot project was that we want to actually prove the impact of vegetated buffers and then go after, in collaboration with you and other communities, millions of dollars to do this far more extensively throughout the community.
Thank you. Yes, all really, really important points for us to consider as we potentially move forward with this collaboration. And I see one more hand up from Bianca, unless Maria Estela, did you have another follow-up?
Se quedó levantada. Déjamela.
No problem. Bianca, go ahead.
I just do have a follow-up. Brent, I do appreciate the work that you're doing. And also would like for the Air District to work together, I guess, with the community, maybe in a subcommittee, as Jessica, you mentioned. Maybe going over other potential locations, and also would consider wind direction. I was looking over like some of the wind direction that comes into the community, as Maria Stella or Francisco was mentioning. Usually when there's nut harvesting, the wind direction comes from north west to the east, and it comes to the community. And the green vegetative barrier that you were mentioning, I was trying to find the location, and it's not as much that would cover some of the contamination coming into the community. So it's not as a big uh green vegetative barrier. So it would be nice to see if we could work together, or if there's any opening remarks for us to do so. I would like to help out. Let me know. And I'm able to gather some folks if you guys would like to talk about it maybe offline, if any other potential. Thank you.
This is Jess, and sorry, Brent, I'll let you answer really quickly. Go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say, I'm hearing a lot of what I'm gonna summarize as support for working with Brent on addressing all of the additional location possibilities, maybe a little more time for Brent and his team to do what you just said, Bianca, and maybe we can work with them, and Bianca, we'd be happy to have you on a call to prep for a subcommittee with Brent and with our team. We can work to maybe identify a handful of options. Maybe it's options where it's longer but smaller trees that we all acknowledge will take time. Maybe an option is a couple different locations that are smaller but pilot projects, maybe a couple of different options that are, now that we have a lot of great input and a little bit more time, and I think folks feel really comfortable with Hyphy, we can work kind of offline to come to a subcommittee meeting, work out some details, and then to my commitment to Jesus and all of you earlier, then still come to a consensus-driven process to move forward. Are there any really objections to that being kind of our next step with this? Looks like it sounds good to Bianca. I do see Mario's hand though. I'd be happy to myself or Brent or whomever answer.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I just feel that we should go and look at the area and maybe get Brent to see the area, that they get a feeling on it. And a part of that, maybe we could figure out something positive, to make it more bigger. And hopefully everything works out. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Great. I'm totally in support with you guys, and it had gotten cut out of my presentation, but Bianca, you're a vegetative buffer designer, it sounds like. But yeah, I'd actually already, similar to what you were saying, started to look at different wind directions that were occurring at different times. And the really interesting thing that you guys have is dramatically different wind directions even within a few days, right? Like when I was putting this proposal together, I was just studying the wind directions, and it was like on a Thursday it was blowing east, on a Saturday it was blowing west, and this is like a unique problem that we don't have in Oakland, right? And I think what you were getting into, Bianca, is really important, because it's going to be like, when is the prevailing winds most likely going to be going in which direction during which like pesticide application seasons, right? And I think like that's this type of nuance that we really care about, and just like we're not able to get into that level of detail before we're able to start working on it, right? And or in a really short time for a proposal. The other piece that we had was that the city of Arvin was very supportive and saying like, we'd love to support you getting this proposal, but they were also cautious about like using their engineers' time. And so basically they were like, if you get this proposal, we can definitely sit down with you and start actually figuring out all the logistics you guys were talking about, like exactly where the utilities are, exactly which sites are most viable, where we can get water most easily, where it overlaps with other improvements like sidewalk improvements that they're planning. I think they've even gotten some AB 617 money for other sidewalk improvements and things like that. So it's like we're thinking through all of the same things that you all are, and just need to kind of start working on it and working with you to do that effectively. And me doing it in a bubble, submitting an application, isn't going to get us there.
This is Liz again, and thank you, Brent. And just want to open it up one more time I know Jessica said really what we are hoping for as next steps is at least a consensus or some excitement from you all to work with the folks from HIFI, knowing that the exact details of the project may or will likely shift given the collaboration that will happen. But if anybody does object or have any concerns that they haven't voiced yet, now would be the time to raise them. And go ahead, Jessica.
I was gonna do, I think you're doing, I see a question in the chat from Jesus. Would it be possible to have the county and or Arvin match funds to expand or improve the project? I think, and Brent will agree with me, anytime we can leverage or match funding, that would be incredible. I know that the county and the city are aware of this project, and I can't speak for them, but definitely we'll let them speak for themselves. But I do know that with that partnership with the city of Arvin, some of that work that Brent was just talking about by the engineer themselves would be, I'm assuming in kind is what it's called, but like work that the city of Arvin would have paid for to do to help support the planting, if that's the case. But we can definitely, as it gets closer, we identify places, maybe it's Caltrans, maybe it's, that we didn't really talk about that, but Main Street is 184. It is a state-owned property. So there are other alternatives too that we can partner with. And I know Brent is familiar with Caltrans as a partner as well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. I work in my own community, so I'm on a AB 61 steering committee like you guys all are. I sit on meetings on Wednesday nights also. It just happens to be next Wednesday. But I'm actually working in my own community to raise other grants. So we've gotten a $2 or $3 million grant from our Metropolitan Transportation Commission. In Richmond, we got a grant from California Natural Resource Agency. And so for us, our hope is to start building this as a catalyst and do more and more projects. We're working in Stockton and others. And so I think there's a lot of different funding opportunities. There's a pesticide grant that comes around in my mind. It'll be coming around next fall. But in my mind, it was if we could prove some of the effect with this one, then we could potentially go and get another pesticide reduction grant. And so just see it as an ability to kind of start the ball rolling.
Great, thank you so much. It seems like we're coming to maybe the end of some of the questions, but we do have one more from Tim. Go ahead.
Hi, I do like the idea of us working together to kind of draft up an idea of where we want to see these vegetation barriers. But one of the selections that Brent did actually had a previous vegetation barrier and it was cut down by the school district. He selected Lamont School in Lamont facing Main Street. When I went there as a kindergartner, it actually had a vegetation barrier protecting it from Main Street. And they cut it when they remodeled the school recently. And one of my concerns is how do we guarantee 10 years down the road when these areas we select come for development or redesign or remodels, they won't take the vegetation barriers. Because I'm pretty sure the residents and more of the same residents in this steering committee want these to become permanent fixtures in their community.
I agree. Yeah, and I was gonna say I could sit. Brent that hurt his heart. I felt it. I do know Angela, I think, said it really well at the beginning of the meeting that at the 10 years is something that we can control, right? Because that's a requirement, so that's part of our agreement and or potentially sub-agreement, right? So the agreement with HIFI and then whoever, whether it's HIFI or other, local folks that help take care and maintain. I do think that's probably a challenge. And Brent, I don't know if you have familiarity with that kind of moving forward, but sometimes it's meetings like this where the city and county are on the call right now, where Caltrans is on, where folks are here hearing this and seeing that investment, hopefully helps a little bit too. I'm not sure what the process was for those barriers back in the day, but this feels very intentional and hopefully we can continue to make sure that folks understand its importance. And then maybe I'm just guessing, Brent, some of the scientific foundation that you are able to do, and maybe the analysis can help support the importance of what it is. And so folks maybe who didn't quite understand back in the day how important those trees really were, maybe we'll have a better understanding because Hyphy will have that sort of data to share with folks.
Yeah, that would be my hope. And that did hurt. And I've actually experienced a similar thing with a project we did where the weed whacking crew came through with a bunch of new saplings we planted at a school. And so I've experienced the same thing. In our own community in West Oakland, what we've been actually doing is we've been working with our regional planning group. At first, they were identifying priority conservation areas. And all of those were up in the hills in kind of nicer, more affluent areas in open space. And we pushed them to actually include some of these roadways as conservation areas and long-term and essentially establish them as long-term conservation easements. So those are our goals with this type of work, in the same way that other places in the state, they establish like mitigation banks with wetlands. We actually want these to be essentially like mitigation banks that then get endowed and have like long-term maintenance and are like legal requirements. So these are all goals we have as well that we're sort of moving through at different paces in different places in the state.
Thank you so much, Brent. This is Liz. And I just see one more question that came up in the chat. A question about to the committee or the group. Is there no vegetative barrier project for Lamont? How would you work with the businesses that cook chickens over firewood? And
I can
Maria,
maybe answer both of those if that's okay, Liz.
yeah, go.
I think with our proposal to do a subcommittee, we can talk about all location possibilities. So there potentially could be one in Lamont, or we can talk about other opportunities to, you know, if we identify one location and it's not in Lamont and it's the one that otherwise we want, maybe we at the Air District can talk about we recently reallocated funding, and if that's a priority, we can do some stuff there as well. So stay tuned for that. When we talk about generally outdoor cooking is what I'm seeing there. We can maybe all together talk a little bit about cooking and some outreach we do about fires and firewood and smoke and coming from burning. It sounds like a very similar topic that was brought up at the beginning of the meeting. At that meeting where we bring inspectors, for the most part, if you are cooking to feed people, that is an allowable thing if it's in what is like traditionally understood to be a thing that you should be cooking food in. But maybe Maria, we can talk with you if there's a specific concern you have, maybe there's something you're seeing. We'd love to talk with you and follow up. And maybe Nancy, I can put that on our list as we'll call you and follow up and see if there's something specific we can address there as well.
Yes, thank you, Jess. And so it sounds like maybe one follow-up is, and one action item is to start coordinating that subcommittee meeting to talk more about what these details are going to look like. And still keeping in mind that no decisions are made in those subcommittee meetings. If you can't join, all of that information will still come from our CSC meetings when we're all together. And so if there is nothing else coming up for folks, I don't see any more hands and nothing in the chat. I think we can say thank you again to Brent and your team, and that we look forward to collaborating with you more in the future. And thank you so much. And with that, and thank you for putting your contact information in the chat.
Great.
This time I will pass it to Maddie for the next item.
Yeah, thank you so much, Liz, and thank you everybody for the discussion so far. And also just wanted to highlight Brent's contact information in the chat, so it's available for you all there. Yeah, so happy to move us along and open up the floor for some standing updates. We aim to carve out this time at each meeting to listen and learn directly from the agencies and community partners that are working on initiatives that impact the Arvin and Lamont community. So as you're all listening to these updates, please feel free to note any questions, ask your questions, type them in the chat, and we'll begin with Carb. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm gonna see if my video will work. It's been acting up all day. Here we go. It seems like it's doing okay. All right, thank you. Welcome everybody. I just posted a few things in the chat, a couple different items that I want to bring to your attention. The district did forward along some information from CARB to you all in an email on March 13th about our peer-to-peer network, where we're looking for CSC members from across the state and to join a team that's going to design meetings that essentially will bring all of our CSCs from across the state together to kind of learn together. So we're calling that a peer-to-peer network. And the first step is that we're looking for CSC members who have been a part of this process, which includes all of you, to apply. And we're looking for about 6 people. And those 6 people will help us basically design these meetings where we bring CSCs together. So I want to encourage all of you to apply if you'd like. And there's a link here. And like I said, also you have that email with a lot more information. And the other thing I was bringing back, Cesar mentioned this at the last meeting, and I wanted to bring back some information. I talked to our oil and gas methane regulation staff and got a little information from them. And I put some stuff in the chat, but the main thing was that they are scheduling a public workshop that's going to happen in the spring. And they will be going before our board in October of 2025. The idea is that they are meeting some regulations that have been set up by the federal EPA. And it's kind of a long, detailed, complicated thing. And I hope to bring back more information and possibly one of their staff to talk about that at the next meeting, if you all want to hear about that. We've also got some other related oil and gas regulations going on. And so I'm hoping that we can kind of bring you all that at once at the next meeting, if it's something you want to hear. So that's mostly my update, unless anybody has any questions or other concerns that they'd like to send my way.
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, happy to open it up to any questions for Michelle. Yes, go for it, Mario.
Yeah, could you send me an application like that? I could read it and see what it's all about. Maybe I'll join something.
Sure, I could forward it to you in the email.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you both. Thanks for the connection. Any other questions for Michelle? Okay. Thank you so much for the update, Michelle. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Happy to open it up to DPR as well. Ivan, go for it.
Yes, hello everybody. I have some updates for everyone. The first one, well, the main one actually, I have 2 updates about the same thing, which is that Spray Days California went live this month. I'm gonna share here the links, and also if you allow me, can I share my screen for those who want to access with their phones? Can you all see the links here?
Yes.
Okay, cool. If you use your phone, you're gonna be able to one second. Yes, if you use your phones, you're gonna be able to access the websites using your phone. I'm gonna leave this for a couple more seconds. So in summary, Spray Days, it's an effort by DPR It took us 4 to 5 years to put together, and now you can sign up and you can get notifications when pesticides are going to be used in your communities for 24 to 48 hours prior to that application. I highly encourage you, recommend you to visit those websites because there's a lot of good information, including demonstrations, demos in Spanish and in English. And also there are some fact sheets, some flyers, and really good information for everybody to really understand what we're doing and to be informed about applications in their communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the update. Any questions for Yvonne? Yes, Mario.
Yeah, my question is, Yvonne, how could I report when they're spraying that they're just using dust mask instead of a proper for pesticide mask?
How can you report when they are using, I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
Who do I have to report to?
We have an enforcement office. Let me find that information and I'll share it with you. But we do have an enforcement office with the phone number and an email for you to report anything that you want to report regarding pesticide applications.
Yeah, because if they've been getting safety meetings and all that stuff, these guys don't need to be using those dust masks. They're supposed to be proper masks for pesticides.
Yes, that is correct. And actually, if you guys access I think I can double check the link that I share. I share 2 links. One is announcements and videos. The second one is Spray Day's website. If you access that link, actually, I'm going to share my screen one more time. Okay, if you access that link, Spray Day's cdpr.ca.gov, at the bottom here says, please report any pesticides incidents or illnesses by calling, and here's the phone number. And of course, if it's an emergency, always call 911 first.
Thank you.
Thank you both. And I'm also happy to welcome in the Air District with updates as well.
I'll go ahead and start. This is Jessica. This is kind of a hard update to give, and I think a few of you know, but I wanted to have you all hear it from me that this is actually my last Arvin Lamont meeting. I have an opportunity to move with my family, so we are moving out of the area in a couple of months. And so I'm leaving the Air District, and it is certainly with a heavy heart. It is bittersweet because I also get to move on and do some really neat things with my family. But one of the things I've been telling folks, and I especially mean it, Arvin means so much to me, your group in particular, because when I took this job, you were the first community I got to kind of start from the beginning. And so I just wanted you all to know that the work you all do is so important. And I think I'm really glad that Yvonne got to say what he just said, because it reminds me of how Monday I got to be with many of you to see really the fruits of your labors. And I just got to be one small piece of bringing such an important thing like pesticide notifications to this community. And so I want you all to know you're in good hands. You've already had a couple of meetings with Stephanie Ng, and she will be taking my place as the new Director of Community Strategies and Resources. And there is certainly not going to be any shortage of support and love for all of you. But I just want to thank all of you. I do it a lot, but I want to thank Bianca and Cesar, who I think have just they've helped me grow as a member of a government agency and helped me grow in how much I learned all about you and everything you all do for each other. So it's hopefully not goodbye for long. I definitely hope to, in my future, be connected to community groups, and it's still the type of work I want to do after we move. And I promise not to be a stranger. So I just wanted you all to hear it from me before I went, and just thank you all once again for all of the work you've all done and everything you've all taught me. Thanks, Maddie.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Definitely bittersweet news to hear, but I know you're going on to these amazing next steps in your life. So appreciate you sharing it with the community tonight. And I think we have another update from the Air District as well. So happy to welcome in Danny.
Thanks, Maddie. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, evening. This is Dan Gonzalez with the Valley Air District. I just want to take this opportunity to invite you all. We are happy to announce that we'll be at the Health and Wellness Fair at the Grow Academy in Arvin next Saturday, April 5th. From 9 to 12, we will be hosting an educational table, provide educational materials and outreach, and connect with residents there attending the fair. So again, if anyone's interested in just stopping by, saying hi, seeing the table, obtaining some resources, and just connecting with us, we will be out there next Saturday, April 5th from 9 to 12. Thanks, Maddie.
Thank you, Danny. And I did see, Bianca, your hand was raised, so just wanted to call you in.
I wanted to thank Jessica. As I talked to her earlier last week, and when I saw her on Monday, I think that this process, we would have never gotten this far without the Air District helping and supporting, especially coming from you. We're going to miss you. You're going to be one of the individuals that I am going to miss, because this process was easier with you. And I can't thank you enough that you had the heart in helping the community and changing our air quality and our health and everything that you've done. You've gone far and beyond. I remember calling you in very evenings and very earlys and weekends, and you're always there to support us. I can't thank you enough. And wherever you're going, I hope it's a good place, and your family to have a good place, and we're gonna really miss you. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words, Bianca. I did see Jessica put her hands over her heart in acknowledgement what you shared. So I think a lot of us share similar sentiments and wish you the best, Jessica. Well, thanks everyone. I know it's not easy to transition to maybe more of our standard updates, but I'm happy to move us along to our wrap up items. So just yes, Julio, I saw your hand was raised and didn't want to miss that.
Hey everybody, I was just waiting for the right chance to, or the right time to speak. Yes, my name's Julio. I'm a planner with Kern County. I just wanted to just give a little bit of an update. We're continuing the design for the projects that we have in the area, like Panama Road, where the design is continuing along with that, and also too with Mountain View. I also did want to let everybody know that I'm taking notes down of the company that was discussing the vegetative barriers. So, you know, hyphae, I see the email there, I see all those things, and the desire is strong in the community. So I will, you know, I'm already taking notes on all these sorts of things for future reference. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Julio, for the update and just sharing with folks that you're annotating a couple of things that you've been hearing today with the collaboration with hyphae. So thank you so much. Alrighty, well, I will move us along to some of our wrap-up items, and starting with some reminders for some upcoming dates. I'm going to share my screen here in just a moment. But just some reminders and some things to mark your calendars for. So the next meeting, the next agenda setting meeting will be on April 3rd from 4 to 5 via Zoom. So mark your calendars for that if you're able to attend. And the next CSC meeting will be on April 23rd, also on Zoom from 5 to 7. So we hope everyone can join us for those meetings. And I'm actually going to transition us now to the action items review, but I'll leave it here just if anyone wants to take a quick note. And so next we'll also take some time to review some of the action items that came up from our meeting today. We did have a couple. And during this time, as we review, if there are any questions or if we didn't track it down accurately and you wanted to let us know, please feel free to do so. I'm going to share my screen once more here. Alrighty. Can everyone see it okay? Okay, I see some nods. So the first action item that came up today was that at an upcoming CSC meeting where the Air District's inspector joins, the agenda topic will include a discussion on agricultural burning. So just wanted to see from folks if there are any questions about that we captured that accurately. Okay, saw some thumbs up. Oh, yes, Mario, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's right. Two, I was gonna say, like giving some information, like public information, because I don't see, like burning out there, like, you know, for the agriculture. And I didn't see no information on that, you know, for the public to know.
Yeah, so it sounds like Mario adding then to this action item some information that could be shared with the community about the agricultural burning.
Yes.
Got you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome. Any other questions about this first action item that came out of our meeting today? And Mario, I still see your hand raised. I don't want to assume. Okay, thank you. All right, and so the second action item that came out of our meeting today is that the Air District will work with the CSC and with HIFI to coordinate a vegetative barriers subcommittee meeting to discuss project locations. And so just wanted to pause here and see if there are any questions or any need to clarify. Okay. So I didn't see any hands raised and nothing is coming up in the chat. And that concluded the action items that have come out of our meeting today. So definitely there will be some follow-up on those for you all to be aware of. So thank you. All right. And so with that, I'm happy to move us along to some closing remarks. Happy to welcome in Bianca for any closing remarks that you'd like to share tonight.
No, thank you for all the amazing updates, and hope to see Jessica soon. It's not a goodbye, it's a see you later for sure. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you, Bianca. And then just checking in if our other co-lead Sassad has joined for any closing remarks. Okay. And happy to welcome it back the Air District for any closing remarks as well.
I'll just say thank you all so much. And you've already made a huge improvement to your community. And I definitely see so much more coming. So I can't wait to keep following and keep seeing and come visit soon, hopefully. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And before we hop off, we do have time for public comment. So we just wanted to keep this space open in case folks would like to share anything tonight. So the floor is open for any public comments. Please feel free to raise your hand or share in the chat. I didn't see any hands raised, and I'm just going to take one more quick scan to make sure I didn't miss any unmuted mics or anything coming through the chat. Okay. Well, I think that's everything for tonight. Thank you all so much for your engagement. Really do appreciate all the thoughtful questions and well wishes to Jessica as she moves on to the next step in her life. We do see some buena suerte, some good luck for Jessica. So community members, if there's anything you'd like to share, please feel free to do so as we close out for tonight. We see hearts. Love it. Well, thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great rest of your night, and we will see you soon. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches y muchas
Gracias.
felicidades. Que la
Buenas
pases bien.
Buenas
Gracias.
noches. Buena suerte.
Buena suerte en tu proyecto nuevo.
Jessica, que le vaya
Gracias.
muy bien, Jessica.
Thank you.
Pronto la vemos.
Sí, buenas noches. Buenas noches a todos.
Buenas noches.
Oye, la otra. Dice buenas noches.
Bye, everyone. Take care, everyone.
Everybody.
Bye. Thank you.